Record. Awesome. I'm going to stop my sharing here. So thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Debbie Elder, and I see we also have Johnny G. We are from Aurora Behavioral Hospitals. If you don't know who we treat adolescents and adults. We have inpatient services, an outpatient IOP and PHP program. We also do ECT, and we have two hospitals, one in Tempe, one in Glendale. We do some awesome, cool things, such as we bring horses every week, we bring a dog every week. The food is amazing. We get lots of compliments on our food, which is rare for a hospital, but it's true. So I am going to, let's see here. There we go. Had to pull something up and I couldn't find it. Awesome. So Shelly is our amazing speaker today. Thank you so much for being here. She is a licensed professional counselor with over 20 years of experience in both mental health and education. She's the owner and therapist of Focus Counseling, serving Arizona, Florida, and South Carolina. Shelly holds multiple certifications in trauma and telehealth and focuses her practice primarily on adolescents and adults with anxiety, trauma, and depression. Shelly is uniquely qualified to speak to compassion fatigue for not only mental health providers, but also school counselors. Shelly has concurrently worked in community mental health and in high schools. Oh goodness, so she should deserve an award for working in high schools. Shelly understands the many rewards, but also the challenges educators and mental health practitioners face in their daily lives. So thank you so much for being our presenter today, Shelly. I am going to go away. Oh, if you have questions, feel free to put them either in the chat or the Q&A, and then I'll just interrupt every once in a while. So take it away.
Thank you so much, Debbie. I appreciate the introduction and for you being able to manage the chat throughout. I'm so excited to be here. I truly love the topic of compassion fatigue. I'm sorry that we have to have this discussion, but it's because you care so much that we get to have this discussion. So thank you for being here. It's my understanding that the participants typically are both mental health counselors and school professionals. So I want to make sure to hit both sides of that. And as Debbie said, that I have been in education and mental health for quite some time. And so I have a different kind of lens than maybe someone on only one side of that fence. So as you mentioned, I'm Shelly Tom. I'm a licensed professional counselor. So I own my own practice, Focus Counseling. It's a telehealth practice, as she mentioned. And then I'm also the director of exceptional student services at WestMech, which is a career technical education district in the West Valley. And so I get to see things through various lenses and see the changing landscape of education and how that's impacting us inside and outside of the schoolhouse. So thank you for being here. So in your chat, should be probably at the top of the chat, you have a copy of this handout if you'd like to use it. I'm going to refer to it a few times today and kind of consider it your ticket out the door or your homework, if you will, to say that you're working already on some healthy me type of habits to be able to take care of yourself when you're taking care of so many other people. So during today, at a couple points, I'll stop and ask you if you've made progress on filling this out. We're not going to pause during the session to take time to fill it out because dead air on an online session is kind of hard to handle. But what we'll do is slowly you're going to work your way around this, filling it out, and look at all these different domains that really impact you being a healthy individual. I think it's really important that you consider the things that you're already doing in each domain to help keep yourself in a really good place. And then to be able to think of some new beginnings, some things you might want to add to that. So what kind of social activities do you do that help keep you in a healthy mindset and are able to keep doing the great work that you're doing and avoid hitting compassion fatigue or ultimately burnout? And then what are some new things you could do? And that's kind of the process you're going to follow to go through these as we're talking today. And then we'll have some people share some of those as we go. So really wanted to talk about how familiar you are with the topic of compassion fatigue. and really describing the differences between that and burnout as well. So there's this great definition by Dr. Figley at Tulane University, and I'm going to read it and then we can kind of break it down a little bit. But it's a state experienced by those helping people or animals in distress. It's an extreme state of tension and preoccupation with the suffering of those being helped to the degree that it can create secondary traumatic stress for the helper. In other words, caring too much can hurt. When caregivers focus on others without practicing self-care, destructive behaviors can surface for you. And I really love this definition, and there are so many definitions out there if you Google the topic of compassion fatigue. But I love how it talks about it's really because you're taking care of others and you're taking on that burden and you're taking on that unbelievable honor of helping people during their time of distress. And compassion fatigue to me is really when you care so much that it hurts. It's not that you don't care anymore. When you get to I don't care anymore, you've hit that burnout, which is a whole different area. So really some primary characteristics of the compassion fatigue is it's gradual. Over time, you have less and less compassion for your job, the people you're helping. If you're a caregiver for a family member or a friend, little by little, you lose that compassion and get a little bit more jaded or a little frustrated or lost motivation. But it really does differ from that burnout, as I mentioned, in that burnout typically has a more rapid onset of those symptoms. It's boredom in the workplace, tired of it, and really to the point where you don't care anymore. So that's really the distinction of I don't care anymore or I care too much that it hurts. So when you do, and I'm sure every time you could Google, you'll find different things ranked where they go. But in my most recent Google search, the most common individuals by profession or characteristic that have at risk for compassion fatigue are nurses and doctors, teachers, counselors, police officers, first responders, and family caregivers. So I'm going to ask you to kind of look at that list for a minute and see if that makes sense to you or if anything stands out as unusual. And then ask you to go ahead and in the chat, why do you think counselors and teachers, as well as family caregivers, are on the same list for being at risk for compassion fatigue as those first responders? So take a moment and throw in some thoughts in the chat here so that we can see ideas of why that might be the case. Oh, saw notes, social workers, yes. Like I said, depending upon what Google listing it gives, sometimes it gives different ones. So I was using the top ones from there. It did not differentiate on this particular online search between counselors and social workers. But I would agree with you as you're writing social worker in here, I would say they are at huge risk for compassion fatigue as well. They just weren't on that particular Google search. Seeing reasons why the counselors, social workers, teachers, and caregivers are on the top of the list. Helping professionals have a hard time turning it off. It's emotionally demanding. You're helping others. Family caregivers, I love this one spoke to. You don't get a lot of breaks or relief. It's kind of your responsibility and there's not someone coming in to take over that. Nancy mentions that maybe there's not adequate self-care, which can affect that. Emotionally and physically demanding. So absolutely, you're hitting on all kinds of concepts as to why this would be the case. Ooh, someone did a really good one here. Hold on, let me catch it as it goes through the thing. But basically saying that the first responders usually get the raw trauma first, and then and those aren't addressed, and then they continue with their caseload and continue with a high level of trauma. So absolutely. You guys have some great responses as to why this list of individuals would be at more risk. So we're talking professions, but let's get into personal characteristics even, because you could be in a room with other counselors, educators, social workers, and some might experience the compassion fatigue where others don't appear to. Before we hit that list of personal characteristics, I just find this really a good, vivid example of what compassion fatigue can feel like. is I'm not someone with amazing imagery skills, but when this one came about as a quote, it was so easy for me to imagine this piece. It reads, "The expectation that we can be immersed in suffering and loss daily and not touched by it is as unrealistic as expecting to be able to walk through water without getting wet." And I really think that that is something that all mental health professionals and first line responders really experience is we can't walk through this no matter how good we are at compartmentalizing and not have some of it stick with us. And just like we can't walk through water without getting wet. And so compassion fatigue remains a risk for us because it carries with us. As I mentioned, there's personal attributes that are risk factors for compassion fatigue beyond just the profession itself. And some of those risk factors include being incredibly conscientious, those with perfectionistic tendencies, the self-giving person that gives and gives and gives, not having adequate social supports, having stress in your personal life that then affects how you're able to handle the stress in your professional life. If you have previous personal trauma history, negative coping skills such as bottling things up, not expressing yourself, or turning to other maladaptive coping skills such as use of substances would be a risk factor as well, and the workplace martyr. So these are some areas that, in addition to that career field, could put one person at more risk than another. So like I said, I could be sitting in a room with 5 other mental health professionals, and 4 may be doing just fine, and the 5th one is not. And it could be that they're perfectionistic, and so they don't stop until it's all done. They overgiver that's taking care of everyone else but themselves. So really finding a way to recognize that in ourselves and others to help guard against some compassion fatigue risk. I did want to speak to the workplace martyr. And this is not my definition and examples, but we'll go through it because some of it might hit a little bit in the feels. But a workplace martyr is someone that's described as those employees that work themselves to the bone. Many times believing they're the only one that's capable of doing their job, and sometimes even want to make sure that the bosses or other people in leadership recognize that they're the only ones capable of the job. Sometimes believe they're too valuable to the company to even take time off. They pressure themselves to be constantly available to others. They're stressed out. Sometimes they don't have trust in the other coworkers to do the job. And they feel like asking for help makes them look inept. Now, if you broke those apart and didn't say this was all one person, some of us that have experienced compassion fatigue or even burnout might see some of those characteristics in ourselves. Usually I hear, well, like that I work constantly and I can't be off from work because I have to be here, but I'm not those negative things of not believing that anyone else can do my job or wanting to make sure the boss sees it. And it's true, we don't have every characteristic. But what they have found is these workplace martyrs really put themselves at risk of that compassion fatigue and then later burnout because they just don't stop. They're the little energizer bunny that keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, no matter what harm to themselves. But the interesting thing when you look at the data is it doesn't typically pan out the way they expect it to. The workplace martyr usually forgoes vacations and times off and works extended hours, always saying yes and taking on more. And it turns out the data says that they don't get further ahead in the company. They aren't making a higher level income in most cases than the people that actually did take their vacation time and had a little bit more balance to their daily work schedule and have some good boundaries around that. So pretty interesting. Would anyone else be able to describe a characteristic of what a workplace martyr is, or what you've maybe seen in someone else in the workplace that puts them more at risk of compassion fatigue? Go ahead and throw those in the chat and we'll share. Ooh, someone says, makes me wonder if providers in private practice are at greater risk. They're a perfectionistic boss they are trying to please and might not have the team to hand things off to. Great statement, Nikki. I think also maybe it's sometimes a smaller practice and not even someone to share it with, even if they wanted to. Oh, someone that even intentionally takes the most difficult cases, the non-delegator, always volunteering for additional tasks. Absolutely. So you can see these behaviors in people, and oftentimes it comes from a good place. Sometimes people don't mean to be the martyr. They're just trying to get through the work and do the best that they can. Yeah, easy to get into that thought pattern. And if you're a solo practice, really hard. Yes, someone says my small practice is much more training than with an agency. And trainees that feel like they can't say no because they might be evaluated negatively. Unfortunately, that's a worry because we think that we're being evaluated based off of our performance, our ability to take on unbelievable tasks that don't even fit on our shoulders anymore, and the isolation. And I do think that in these helping communities that we're in, isolation is kind of a byproduct because we have to compartmentalize things. We can't tell everybody everything that we're dealing with because of confidentiality and things of that nature. So it is very hard to be able to connect with people in a meaningful way. Sometimes the employer is piling it on, and so they can't take it off to their plate because someone else is giving it to them. And the work culture. Oh, you guys are foreshadowing some of the future things we're talking about. Thank you. You're right in the mix of it all. I appreciate it. So I think probably most people in this room are familiar with this visual, right? That when you get on a plane, they go through all the safety protocols and talk about your exits are here and here, that the lights will come across the floor to show you where the exit is, your seat's a flotation device. And then when they talk about the oxygen masks that might come down in case of a loss of cabin pressure, what is it that they say every time when they describe putting on your oxygen mask? Put on yours first before helping others. Absolutely. I just had someone ask if we could close caption. I'm seeing if I can find it on mine. So just a moment. I am not seeing it.
I tried to do it, but obviously I think maybe I did it wrong.
I know that Google Meets does the closed caption, but I'm not seeing it on my tools for me right here for the under Zoom.
I will keep trying. I don't know why it won't show, but I'll keep trying to get it to come up.
Okay.
And also
Thank
it's
you.
on my toolbar. I don't know if it's on everyone's toolbar where they can click on it, but I will keep trying.
Just click and show my captions. Okay, thank you. Someone says at the bottom of their screen to do it. I'm not seeing it where I have that access right now. Oh, it's under your own personal ones. So someone can go into your audio settings and go ahead and put that in. Thank you, sorry. I'm all about accessibility, so I apologize that wasn't a statement up there ahead of time. But again, as we're talking about the oxygen mask, they're talking about put it on first because you can't help others if you can't help yourself, is really it. And I think the visual is so amazing when you're in a plane with someone that has like small kids with them or an elderly person with them. They really have a hard time with that statement the flight attendant might give because first thing they want to do is take care of that loved one. And it fights against your instinct to be selfish, if you want to call it that, for just a moment to put on your mask. But the reality is that if you don't put on your mask, this person might become combative, they wiggle around, whatever might happen. You might both lose too much oxygen before getting the mask on, either one of you, and no one was helped in the situation. And so by taking a moment to put your own mask on yourself and then being able to help the person next to you makes a difference. So sometimes that's a visual to give. There's also another one that I would love to share with you here. Okay, I'll give you the other visual in a minute. Okay. Something I think it's really important about this part of it is we also need to keep in mind that our professional code of ethics in most areas also talk about the need to monitor your own physical, psychological, and well-being. We are required to make sure we're giving the highest level of care to whoever we're working with. And if we're in a state of compassion fatigue where we've lost motivation, we aren't giving our best in every effort, we aren't completely engaged, we aren't giving the best care to someone. So we're really having to watch our own code of ethics and see if we're meeting that requirement and taking steps for that. You guys have been putting some great stuff in here about it being often overlooked. And these are just some of the reasons on top of what you put in the chat. A lot of times it's overlooked because it's a fast-paced work environment. It's go, go, go. There's productivity requirements. You might be in a place where it's crisis after crisis after crisis. It could have many reasons why it's such a fast-paced environment. And then when I think of our school counselors, my goodness, in Arizona, we've got statistically some of the worst caseloads for school counselors. If you follow the American School Counseling Association guideline, they're saying you should be no more than one counselor for 250 people. Most of our schools, the counselors have over 400, much more than 400 students on their caseload. It's very hard to be providing monitoring to see how they're doing academically and emotionally, intervening and connecting with them in a meaningful way when you have 450 of them to do on top of subbing in classrooms and presenting and administering exams and. And then when you look at mental health, as we talked about, sometimes there's productivity requirements about having so many cases during the week that you're doing follow-up calls and managing things of that nature. So it's so many things that can affect it. Also, the requirements and demands of the job. Someone mentioned piling it on from the supervisor. It could be, especially in your own private practice, this is what keeps the doors open by having this many clients coming through. And that means you're back to back to back without a break, and that it's hard to keep up on your paperwork. And if you're a private practice owner, marketing and all the other back end stuff that you're doing. The paperwork and documentation in every job aspect that we have has gotten bigger and bigger, not smaller. You're stretching yourself to help more students or more clients. Sometimes you have to feel like, I need to get that one more client in. They called, they're desperate to see someone who's got the training in my area. I really need to get them in, so I'm adding an extra hour on to the end of my day compared to what I normally would do, or an hour before I normally do, or take them on a weekend. Different things of those natures that can mean that you're stretching yourself just a little bit further. I work with someone at their private practice that it's a wonderful problem to have in so many ways, but huge wait list to get in. And he has a hard time saying no to referral sources because he doesn't want to burn a bridge with a referral. And so he's got many people giving them referrals. He has nowhere to put them in his day. So he just keeps extending his hours further and further to accept all the referrals so that he doesn't eventually hurt that referral source, rather than recognizing that maybe he needs to be able to put his boundaries on there a little bit and let them know that he's full, and we'll keep him on a wait list to be able to work with that and be able to get to them or refer them out. But it's very hard to do that when you feel this compassion towards others. Very few of us got into the helping profession because we wanted to help ourselves. A lot of us got into the helping profession because we like to help others. And one of the other things is, many times we are very well-trained professionals that have a multitude of experiences, and we feel that we can handle anything that someone throws our way. And so we might take on more and more than we need to because, like we talked about before, the workplace martyr, or someone that feels like, I got this, or I'll take the most difficult cases. So we have to be careful and continue to monitor this code of ethics and make sure we're providing the last client of the day the same level of care as we did the first client of the day, same thing throughout the week. So sometimes that means that we might have to reduce our clinical hours. Sometimes it also means we need to look at the clients that we take on. So for some people, working with personality disorders is something they enjoy greatly. For other people, that can be very difficult work. And so do you limit how many people you bring into your practice that are with a personality disorder so that you are not overwhelmed in doing that? Do you make sure, if you have a group practice, that you're spreading that out amongst different therapists rather than putting them all with one person? Debbie, it looks like they can't see the worksheet. Would you be able to pop it back in real quick?
Yes,
Probably gotten
I'm
buried in the
trying
message.
to save it in a different format too, just to see if it's because it's in an Adobe PDF, but I'm trying to get it in a Word PDF to see if that helps too.
Thank you. Karen mentioned that the waitlist could be a legal problem, and you have to look at that as far as, are you referring out? Are you making sure that they have resources and support and you're not just leaving them sitting there? There are a lot of practices with wait lists and trying to get through them. I would never leave someone on a wait list without referring them somewhere else to make sure that they have an opportunity to get support if you're not available. Absolutely. Another visual to talk about beyond that mask and the plane, sometimes different visuals hit people in a different way, but also thinking of that gas tank. And if you're on empty, you're not going anywhere. So you want to make sure that you're filling your tank in order to continue to help others. So I'd love to see if people could throw things in the chat right now of things that empty your tank. What things drain you? It can be work, it can be personal world, but what things might drain you a bit that you watch that gas gauge go lower and lower as far as your ability to support others and keep up that motivation? Negative talk, uncertainty, lack of boundaries, lack of sleep, very real. Sometimes it's the responsibilities of caring for loved ones, unsupportive supervisors, absolutely. Time frame, paperwork and productivity, family stressors, summer break. Being an introvert and having so many places you have to be. Late sessions, all of these things really can drain you. Negative attitudes of clients. Can't get the thought of clients out of your head after work hours. Yep. Seeing clients that are not ready to make changes yet. Those are all things that really can drain you. And I love some people are putting things in even as having to do notes and contemporaneously documented with it and missing your lunch in order to try to get notes done or see clients and do things of that nature. So many things can drain. So let's talk about the other side. What fills your tank then? If all these things cause you to be drained, or it makes it harder to take care of you and other people, what kind of things would fill your tank so that you're in a better place to be the top of your game, so to speak, whenever you're meeting with your clients? Okay, so spirituality, disconnecting from work, vacation, supportive colleagues, comedy and laughter, yes, time with friends, okay. Sleep, traveling, being able to work with others, coffee time with family and friends. My goodness, you guys are amazing, yes. But I think what you're going to see if you're watching this go by, it's beautiful. There's a lot of things that come up again and again. There's a lot of sleep. There's a lot family. There's vacations and support systems in here. So there's so many different things we can do to really fill our tank again, to make sure we are taking care of ourselves or helping someone else that's in that helper capacity, helping them realize how they might be able to fill their tank as well. And some of these are easier to do, and some of these take a harder component. Like it's a little bit easier for me to take more time in the morning to sit and have my coffee intentionally compared to taking 7 days off, right? Sometimes things can and can't do, but there's things that you can do, little things make a difference. Absolutely. So one of the things I'd really like you to think about is putting yourself at your to-do list for self-care. You should be that self-care needs to be the top, the middle, the bottom of what you're doing to take care of you so that then you can in turn take care of others. And there's such a negative feeling sometimes around self-care. Some people describe it as selfish, when self-care truly isn't selfish, that sometimes the wording is now being changed to wellness rather than self-care to avoid that self in there that people think becomes selfish. But like we talked about with being able to put on your oxygen mask first or being able to fill your tank, if you're not taking care of you, nothing else is happening. So you have to make sure you find a way to put it in your to-do list. So things like intentionally scheduling time with family, intentionally blocking out time for notes and not filling that time. And sometimes that's easier to pin on your work environment, absolutely. But there can be some small changes that end up in the long term making a difference. And the one that I see there, and it's one of those do as I say, not as I do type of things, is sleep is essential. It's restorative. It gets you back on track cognitively and physically. To be able to have a consistent sleep schedule of going to sleep at the same time every day, getting up at the same time every day, whether it's Monday through Friday or if it's Saturday, having that schedule throughout the entire 7 days a week gives you that best rest that helps you be in a better place to feel motivated, to feel the energy you need, and to be cognitively in the same place to be able to take care of everyone. So hopefully you're finding ways to put yourself at the top of your to-do list. This is one I borrowed from ambitiouskitchen.com, which I love. But what I love about this is they found different ways to keep it interesting for their self-care. So they gave kind of a theme to each day of the week. So Mondays, eat well and nourish yourself. Tuesdays, a tech detox and being able to find some creativity. There's pampering yourself, some nighttime routines, getting more sleep. Then Friday, get a little bit more social, do something with someone that you care about. Saturday, increasing that exercise. And Sunday, some kind of a treat. You don't have to have it this structured. It doesn't have to be these exact things, but I love that it takes on a different topic each day. So you're feeding that healthy you in a different way each time. So whether you're deciding to meal prep or being able to slowly sip your tea or water or anything like that, to putting your phone away a little bit longer. The sheet's handy. You're going to get a copy of this presentation at the end, so you'll be able to see this as well. So, but being able to, different things you do. And when you think of how you take care of yourself, it's different for all of us. One of my favorite self-care things is to stop and get an extremely hot chai tea and make myself slow down and sip it. Someone else I know, their best form of self-care is making sure they get up every day and exercise before they start their day. So finding different ways to be able to take care of yourself in small ways ends up to big gains at the end. So now Debbie was wonderful and put this back in to the chat for us. But there's these again, we're looking at different ways to feed into yourself. So are you exercising in any way? Whether that's choosing to take the stairs instead of the elevator, or being someone that's training for a marathon, whatever your exercise is, getting up and moving and just getting away from your desk is wonderful. Maybe you're incorporating getting outside while you do it and going for a hike or a walk with friends, so it'd be exercise and social kind of thing. Finding different self-care and really looking at your supports. How are you finding social supports? Do you already have those good supports in work and outside of work? Someone's saying, thinking that self-care is selfish doesn't sit well. Truly have a question who motivates that thought of taking care of myself as being selfish. Of course it is. But unfortunately, the number of times that people say that they feel that it's selfish is amazing. But you're right. To be able to say that if I don't take care of myself, who's going to take care of me? But we're looking at all these different kinds of activities and how we can make sure you're adding things in. And also, someone mentioned earlier, having the thinking patterns. Do you have some negative thoughts? So what are some different ways of thinking about things? So that, and reframing that for yourself so that you have positive thinking to begin your day. Okay. So as we've been talking about, sometimes it's the environment that feeds this compassion fatigue as well. So what kind of things contribute to compassion fatigue we talked about, but how can we kind of accept a challenge now that we know more about it and talk about creating an anti-compassion fatigue workplace? So are you in a position to get together with others and present this to your supervisors, or even you as coworkers just deciding together we're going to do this? But can you create a self-care plan for work? Is it that we give a 10-minute break between meetings all the time so people do have a chance to run to the restroom, grab another bottle of water, go for a walk, or just scroll mindlessly at the silly cat and dog videos that you might need to kind of refresh before the next meeting? What else might be something that you'd put in your self-care plan at your workplace? I love it. Yep, giving the positive affirmations. And I told you I work at a school as well as I own my own practice. At the school I'm at, and one of our departments that we're in, every single meeting starts with gratitude. We don't move on until everyone's had a chance to express a gratitude for the day. And sometimes it is, I'm just happy to be in this room instead of what else I was working on. And sometimes it sounds much deeper. But in either case, it's calling people to think about that positive part before you get stuck in some negativity of yet another meeting. So building that self-care plan for you, self-care plan for your coworkers. And I love the idea of having an accountability partner. Someone that can be your self-care bulldog, that when you aren't saying no as often as you need to, or you're not taking a break, you keep skipping that lunch or whatever you might be doing, it's someone that's a reminder to you. That tenacious friend or coworker that says, did you really have to take on a fourth client for today? Did you really have to agree to present 5 times at this next conference, or. So being able to have that person in your building, and even if you have someone at home to be your self-care bulldog as well, is wonderful. And I like the term of bulldog because they're tenacious, they're cute, and they're wonderful. And so there's a chance to have someone on your side to be a part of what we're doing. Another piece would be, can you create a culture where you empower yourself and others to say no? You know, that phrase that we all hear, no is a complete sentence. No is also a good word, not necessarily a negative word. But are there times where we can say no? Are there times it's appropriate to say no? What can we do to be able to empower people to say, this doesn't work for me? So how can we do that? Ooh, I love it. Denise said, say yes to the people, but no to the task. Very much the case. You need to invest in your people and they can invest in you, but sometimes you can say no to the task at hand. Absolutely. And then being able to, as an organization, look at what resources or tools do we need to create this environment? And how can this become a plan on an organizational level? Maybe I'm starting small with my coworkers and people that are my peers. And then maybe we take that up a little bit to our supervisor, and then maybe it becomes part of the leadership or organizational culture of being able to invest in each other and taking care of ourselves and having a place to be. I sometimes think that places might not want to say no as a complete sentence, and then you're empowered to say no as part of their mission statement. But I think that many places would realize that when we're trying to find a way to be our better selves, to be more productive at work, to be better for who we work with, many places would work with you to come up with that culture. And if not, sometimes you have to do it on your own. Talking about that, though, organizational change is not easy, but you need to find what resources need to be there, how we can make this happen. So part of that is creating trainings for people to participate in trainings that let them know that organizing their strategy of how they work best is okay. Helping them realize that sometimes we're creating a toxic environment that is really at risk for compassion fatigue or other things if we aren't looking at this. So what kind of trainings can you bring to your organization to do that? And depending upon your setting, that training may look different, whether you're clinical, administrative, but there's a multitude of trainings out there to be able to say, how can we make a culture shift here? And a big piece I would say is breaking the silence. Many of us live in a culture of silence, that we don't talk about the negative. We don't talk about a situation that happened. Something traumatic may have happened, and then we don't even debrief it. We just have to go about our business. And so being able to break the silence and speak about that is huge. And then team building activities. I am the first one to say I don't love all of the team building things, but I love the value of it and what it does to make sure your team feels comfortable with each other, as long as you put it in parameters that are comfortable for everyone. Some of them, you're in your workplace doing touchy-feely, literally touching people and doing activities for trust activities, sometimes goes awry because some people don't like to be touched. But being able to do other kind of team building or just fun little recognitions to help people feel appreciated and seen are important. Kind of along that same line, employee appreciation. Sometimes there's, in whatever work setting, there's an administrative professionals day, there's a boss's day, but is there a counselor day? Is there a recruiter day? Is there a janitorial service day? Maybe if you Google that, you might find something for everything. But be able to find a way to recognize everyone on the team and not just particular aspects of the team is huge, because we all contribute to that culture. There is one called National Employee Appreciation Day, which is the first Friday in March. That's kind of my catch-all for anyone I can't find a day that fits. We do that. so that we know that this day is reserved for you, even though we express appreciation all year long, because you don't want to only do that once a year. But to make it a little bit more distinct at one time a year to say this is for you, and then notes of appreciation, expressing gratitude to others. And a huge one to me is saying that name of that person even when they're not in the room. So if you happen to be in a meeting with the leadership and being able to say, I'm just looking, I can see Johnny's name pop up, that Johnny was amazing at this. He really diffused the situation in such a way, or he was supportive of Debbie doing this, to be able to speak to that person, even when we're not in the room, let other people know that we appreciate them. And then I also think the reverse comes true. If I'm in a room and someone brought someone up, I want to go find that person and tell them, oh my gosh, what I heard about what Johnny did today. Oh, Johnny, that was amazing. Thank you for contributing to this. Be able to do that. I love that Cassandra says that they do the first Friday of every month could be appreciation. Absolutely. There's ways to get there. Celebrating birthdays and milestones can be huge. We all do birthdays differently. Not everyone wants you to say what particular milestone they've hit on their birthday, but being able to say, we see you, we appreciate you. And small little expressions of gratitude of either the organization or of that person. And those are really important to be able to do. One of the things we love here, like we talked about in our meetings, we'll start with gratitude, but we're also the ones to celebrate each other. And there are so many email chains that go around because we're in various buildings to be able to say, oh my gosh, did you hear that Carol did this amazing thing to help this person out? Way to go, Carol. And then everyone can jump on that email chain and talk about how amazing Carol is for that or something else. And I will tell you, the power of a handwritten card has not lost its value. When you handwrite a card and give it to someone, somehow that seems to mean a little bit more than the quick email for people. Even though the same thoughts could be extended, when you handwrite it, seems to just really touch differently. So finding ways to create that in your organization. One thing I used to do in one organization when I started seeing the culture dipping is that I created anonymous notes to people of caught you doing good, or I appreciate you for this. And I recruited a couple other people in my department, and I got out a staff roster. And I made sure that as the year progressed, everyone on that staff roster got an anonymous note from one of us. And it just would magically show up in their work mailbox. And you started seeing these colorful notes show up and people trying to figure out who they are that's sending them. I had someone figure out it was me. I tried to hide my handwriting and things like that, tried not to make it so personal they could figure me out, but they figured out it was me. But it wasn't about me saying something to them. That's why I left it anonymous. I just wanted them to be appreciated and seen and heard. But being able to recruit other people in the department to be able to identify some of those and write those as well, because Alicia might have seen something that Johnny did and I didn't know about it. And so to be able to write a wonderful note about that is amazing. So being able to add those kind of things to help create that culture. It became a big deal because I bought these incredibly almost hurt your eyes, bright colored cards so that people could see them as they were walking towards their mailboxes, that they had gotten something in there and they were looking forward to it. So different things to express that. And with you guys in here, just want to also remind you of all these kind of things to remember. And this one's from Blessings Manifesting. I didn't come up with all this on my own, but sometimes you find some great, wonderful notes that help you express things. But I love when you're looking at things like, even for you, it's okay to ask for help. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to be able to take everything on. You can ask for help, whether it's just returning a call or you just get out of the building with me and we'll go have a lunch for 30 minutes just away from the building. I can't be here for a few minutes. I just need a reset, or go for a walk with me. Ask for help where you need it. And I love that the one on the bottom corner, that productivity does not define your worth. That's huge to realize that though we're all part of something wonderful and we all want to be productive and get things done, if I didn't meet a goal or I didn't exceed a goal this month, that doesn't define who I am as a whole. We all have expectations. You want to meet expectations, but that doesn't make me less of a person if I'm not quite as productive. And I think all of us do a really good job teaching, whether you're in a school setting or a mental health setting, be able to talk about how important boundaries are. But then question for you is, are you modeling that for the people in your world, personally and professionally? Because when we come into a session and we look exhausted, like we're dragging our feet just to make it through the door to welcome them, are they seeing the boundaries that you're trying to tell them that they need to learn how to do with their family? If you're not getting any sleep and you are having to try to manage a day that's a 15-hour day, are you modeling the behavior you're expecting others to do? So can you, with great respect, say, this is what I need to do? And knowing that your mistakes don't define you, I think that's really huge. And I also love that you don't always have to have the answer. And I will wholeheartedly admit I'm what I call a perfectionist, like a recovering perfectionist. I'm not all the way there yet. I'm getting over some of my perfectionistic tendencies. It's taken a couple decades to get there. But as a perfectionist, it was hard to sometimes not always know the answer. And I felt pressure on myself to know the answer, even if my supervisors didn't put it on me. And in one job where I was an intern early on, I actually got told that I had to give a response that if I don't know that, I'm sorry, I don't know that answer right now, but I'll go research it and get back to you. That was the day that the most pressure came off of my shoulders that I've ever had in my life. It was someone giving me permission not to know the answer, but to give a response that I'm going to go find out and I'll bring it back to you. It was so freeing. And so whatever it is that you need to hear or someone working with you needs to hear to free them up a little bit, to be able to set the boundaries and not always have to have the answer and to be able to stop once in a while and breathe, please feel free to give them that acknowledgement or those statements, be able to take a break and do that. So I wanted to get a little bit of time, and you guys have been doing great things adding in here. But if I were in person, I would be giving you some positive self-affirmation cards and things to look at, and then we would be discussing them. But we're not in person. So in a moment, I'm going to have you hold on. Don't hit enter yet. But I'm going to ask you if you will do what we call a give one, get one. In a moment, we're going to ask everyone to type in a positive self-affirmation to share. But don't hit enter yet because we're going to waterfall it. So you'll type in one positive affirmation. Don't hit enter until I tell you. And when I tell you to, we'll hit the button and then we'll see a waterfall of all these positive affirmations for all of us to look at. We'll take a moment, we'll pause and let everyone look through those. And then I will give instructions for you to get one. Find one of them in there that really speaks to you, that's really authentic to you and that you could use. And then we'll put that into what you've taken away from it. So, okay, put your thinking caps on. Think of your positive self-affirmation you want to share. And take a moment and type it in, but don't hit enter. I'll give you just a moment to go ahead and type in a positive affirmation. And go ahead and hit enter, and we're going to watch these all go through. I'm important. I'm enough. I'm worth it. I'm strong and capable. You're amazing. It's okay to have moments of doubt. Oh, I like that one. You are strength. You are love. Oh, these are beautiful. You're enough. I am worthy. I'm powerful and infinite wellness. Ooh. My worth is not based on my productivity. I'm allowed to relax. Oh my goodness. I'm whole and complete and competent. Oh my goodness, you are amazing. These are amazing. Make a difference. I'm okay. I'm making myself a priority daily. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, so we've had a lot of them in here. Now I want you to think about the ones you just saw and take a moment and be able to write in there which one you would want to take forward for you. Which one are you going to collect and say, this is the one I need. This is the one I'm going to take with me. And go ahead and type in the one you're going to get. So I'm right where I meant to be, allowed to relax, don't have to be perfect, make a difference. Oh, someone said they want to copy the whole chat. We could actually do that and add it with the presentation at the end if Debbie's good with that. We could print that as a transcript in most cases. Okay, these are wonderful. Doing my best is my best. I'm worthy. These are great. I hope all of you are reading these and just feeling that positive piece that's coming through this. I love that we're all finding different ways to share appreciation. And some people we know on the chat and some people we don't know. So just think about these 10 minutes, if that we've been putting in here positive self affirmations and giving them to others and then taking some back, how that feels already. Can you imagine how that would look in your daily work with a client, even, or a student if you're in the school? What would it change their day if you were to give them one of these statements? And would it change your day if you accepted it from someone you're working with? I have found that I have changed my wording when I talk to people. I used to say thank you a lot, which is still a wonderful word. But I found when I changed things to say, I appreciate you, it hit a lot deeper. People would really surprise me with how much that impacted them when I say I appreciate you instead of just thank you. It kind of means the same thing, but it really hit different. Ooh, others' demands are not my commands. It's okay to say no. Oh, that's so neat. Yeah. So hopefully you continuing to get and give. Oh, someone said, oh, hard to accept compliments at work, imposter syndrome. That is so real, especially if you're feeling a little bit of passion fatigue or you're feeling a little bit of doubt. Sometimes it's hard to feel that I am doing amazing things. But the fact that you're here on a holiday week in the middle of your day and spending time engaging in this discussion tells me that you're really committed to what you're doing and you're always finding ways to improve yourself so that you can help yourself and help others. Okay. So that kind of concludes this part of the presentation itself. My question would be is how far did you get on being able to do that handout? Were you able to find skills you're already using and then also find some new beginnings to go through? You know, and one of the things I look at is like taking care of yourself and feeding yourself well. And what I mean by feeding yourself well is, are you eating a bunch of empty calories that you're getting no enjoyment out of? Are you choosing to sip a glass of wine on the patio, or are you choosing to drink an entire bottle of wine? And then how are you feeding your thoughts? Are you feeding yourself those positive thoughts as you're going through? Are you purposely cutting out that inner critic or at least muting them sometimes more than ever? What are you doing to take care of you? And what kind of things could you put on that handout and be able to take with you? And we talk about homework for our clients and our students and telling them, you know, put that somewhere you're going to remember it, somewhere you're going to see it. When you fill that out, where would you put that? Hopefully not just thrown in a drawer or in the recycling bin. Hopefully it's something you would keep as a visual reminder of, okay, didn't get the handout, maybe I can cut off the show sent to us. Yes, we will make sure we'll get it to you with the CEUs and the presentation handout. We can send the handout itself for you. So I'm so sorry that some people are having a harder time being able to get to it, depending upon what software you have on your computer. My apologies. But if hopefully you're taking with you things from this that'll continue in your daily work and be able to move forward. Before we go into kind of a little bit about the work I do in other agencies and things of that nature, I wanted to see if there were other questions that came up, Debbie, that maybe I didn't see and we wanted to make sure to address, or particularly amazing comments that really want to make sure we share out and didn't miss for everyone.
Let's see. Didn't really see any more questions. I will definitely send the sheet with the CEU and the copy of the presentation. Just some of these, you know, positive affirmations are just amazing. I know we were talking before we started about, you know, both of us and how much our heart is in that, you know, that's where our heart lies. And so I think it's so cool that so many people, if you read through that, it's kind of like you had a great, day where lots of people are telling you, amazing things that you can tell yourself every day. I always say the same thing: write on a sticky note or a little card, stick it on your bathroom mirror, like stick it on the back of your bathroom door, like put it somewhere where you see it all the time. Stick it on your car. I have a little sticker on my dashboard that says, "I am the only thing I can control." And so sometimes if you get, I'll get really anxious about, oh my gosh, I have to do all these things, and there's all these people and all these working parts, and then just, stopping and realizing sometimes you can't do everything. So, but yeah, I don't see any
I have to
specific
say, I need to
questions yet.
scroll up for a second. I wanted to get this right. Someone said, where is it? Someone said they made themselves a meme with a self-care bulldog. I was trying to find it. I lost it in here as I'm looking through the feed, but I love it. They made themselves a meme with a self-care bulldog. That's adorable. So one of the other things that I think, as you're talking about the positive affirmations and stuff, I'm a strong believer that they have to be something authentic to you. So just getting on Google and printing the top 10 positive affirmations may not fit for you. And then for same thing for the clients we work with. And then sometimes people stop if it doesn't speak to them. And so being able to find something that's authentic to you, that's believable to you, that you're going to say is huge. And putting them in wherever is good for you. I love opening up my reading glasses case and finding a note in there. There's some cards that I've bought recently that they will stick. You get them wet and they'll stick to your mirror or to a window or something like that. It's wonderful to have a way to do that. So being able to connect that as a daily practice is huge. And it's easy to get busy and forget to make yourself a priority. That's why I kind of like that one where Monday I do this, Tuesday I do this, and schedule into your week, if not your day, at least your week, sometime for you for self-care, because we know that taking care of ourselves and having boundaries and connecting with our social support network makes a difference in fighting off some of that compassion fatigue. One of the other chats that went through is a lot of times people that are caregivers are taking care of someone, and it's a full-time job, even if you have another job on top of it. And then there are a lot of times that people forget to ask the caregiver how they're doing. All the inquiries are about the person. You're taking care of grandma. Everyone calls them, how's grandma doing? How's grandma doing? What's grandma done today? And they never think to say, how are you doing today? And I think we saw something of that in the chat, and it's very real. We recently had a colleague that had very scary medical experience, and it went really quickly of what she had to deal with. And our office was calling and talking to the husband and asking how we can support him. What can we do? Because we knew he needed support, but we also know that if he's not taken care of, he can't be there to take care of her as well. And the number of times that he has expressed appreciation that we were the only place in all of his social world that asked about him was unreal. All right. Great. I'm glad that you feel comfortable with this. I'm glad you guys are enjoying this information. So I'm going to briefly switch over to just like talk to you a little bit about my other work kind of thing and how you can reach me if you want to. I'm happy to speak to anyone on the information. As we mentioned before, I have my own private practice. I run Focus Counseling. It's a fully telehealth counseling. I work in Arizona, South Carolina, and Florida, and work primarily with adults and adolescents with anxiety, depression, and trauma. Also do trainings, EMDR trained, and really believe in instilling coping skills to help other people gain those skills to be able to minimize the experiences that they're having and to build that through with them. One of the nice parts about being telehealth is a little bit more flexible for people without the drive. So some people participate on a lunch hour, some participate after work or on a weekend, depending upon what my schedule and their schedule is. And yes, I do practice some self-care and have some boundaries around what that looks like. But I have found that it's a lot easier when people don't have to build in the travel time definitely easier for students, especially those that are not drivers yet, because parents don't have to take off time from work to go pick them up at school, bring them to counseling, and get them home. So telehealth has made it very accessible for people. On the screen, you'll see my contact information. You can either, it'll be in the printout you'll get as well for the presentation, but my direct information is listed at the bottom. But also, if you scan the QR code, that goes to my digital business card. And on my digital business card, it's all hot links. So you can push a button, it calls. You can push a button, it emails, and you push a button, goes to the website. So it's all in there automatically for you. So it's one of those wonderful things in having over 25 years of experience working in counseling to be able to bring that into private practice. I've worked with Department of Child Services. I've worked with juvenile corrections. I've worked in hospitals. I've worked with severely mentally ill. I've worked in private practices. I'm kind of had this wealth of experiences over my educational career in getting my certifications and my licensure, and then also in my experiences in my own practice to really be able to touch on many different areas of support for people. So it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to support people in that area. And then the other area that is, which makes me a little bit more unique, is that I'm also work for WestNEC, which is a career technical education district in the West Valley. We cover about 4,000 square miles. So students come to us part day. The other half of the day, they're at their high school getting their English, math, science classes. And then they come to us and get trained in several different career fields. We have 33 different career fields as of next year for students. And so I work with students from anywhere from down in Gila Bend to Tonopah to Paradise Valley. We're all over the place. And so we have people coming in with different needs and challenges in their educational and mental health world. And as Director of Exceptional Student Services, I create intervention systems, I create sources of support, oversee special education and 504 services, staff trainings, and kind of thing. But it's very rewarding to be able to work with high school students and help them get a grasp on their future self and help them get that career in their back pocket, while also getting rid of some barriers that might be there. And having the benefit of being on the counseling side as well as the school side really helps me to connect them to other people in the community. So I love seeing all the different names here because we create a referral list and send people to professionals outside the school that might be helpful to them. So if you want to email me at either my WestMEC email address or at my Focus Counseling email address and let me know that you would like to be available to students or families that might need additional support in the counseling realm, I would be happy to have that information. I love being able to support our families. And again, we're across 4,000 square miles. So it's nice to have people in all different reaches of that boundary to be able to provide services and support. So thank you. Couple things I'm seeing on the chat here. Just want to make sure hitting on. Sorry, I feel a little bit squirrel because I'm checking back and forth. Having other people support you when you're a caregiver is so important. Absolutely. Oh, someone said it'd be nicer if workplaces would stick to how important it is for staff to honor their employee needs. I see people, agencies where you should know about the policies and procedures and boards, and profits take over. Sorry, I accidentally went too far as I scrolled. It says, I see in people, agencies, we should know about policy boards and procedures, and profits take over is more important. Our whole society needs to recalibrate to workplace priorities. There's no business without our dedicated, caring staff. We need to take care of our people. And if you look at, so many people have left the workforce. It's unreal because some people just aren't feeling that they are cared for, and it makes it very difficult when you're not feeling appreciated. And how to view the webinar. Debbie, did you want to speak to, it's being recorded, how they might view that compared to just receiving a copy of it?
Sure. Sorry, I was trying to figure out in here. I think I did it. So fingers crossed that I'll be able to print the chat when I'm done and save that and send it with the CEU certificate. So sorry, I was working on that. So the recording, when we're done, I do everything I need to do and then I send it to our company that posts it on our website. Usually takes about 5 days. It used to take a long time, but all of a sudden, there's somebody new who's on our team that does that at our like corporate level team, and they're amazing. So those are literally getting done in like a few days from when I send it to her. And it's just on our website under community trainings. I think it's under news and then community trainings. And then you can see all the webinars and just go to the bottom for that one.
Wonderful, thank you. And so we'll be sending, as you said, the PDF of this will come out much more quickly along with the CE certificates and the handout if you didn't get it for the Healthy Me part. So all that'll come to you in then just a few more days, and then the webinar itself will be available on the website.
And I'm gonna unshare yours really quick so I can share.
Gotcha. One second.
There we go. So this is just a QR code that goes to our Aurora website. If you want to leave a review, you don't have to leave a review. But we found that that's really helpful. We've actually gotten some really great ideas for other CE webinars that way too. So this has been absolutely so cool. Couldn't even keep up with all the positive things in the chat there, but it sounds like we should probably schedule this one every few months or so. So everybody can kind of get out, okay, we all need to be reminded that life is good and we are good and everything is good once in a while.
I agree. It's so easy to get caught up on what's not going well, to take a moment to stop and realize what is going well and how we can impact that is so important.
Exactly. Those automatic negative thoughts that like get in our brain. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. Awesome. Well, if you don't have anything else, then I'm going to, where's my recording button? All right.